Hi, it's Paul Feuerstein here, Technology Editor of Dentistry Today. And as you know, I do a lot of product videos, and I have to show you a product that I use in my practice every single day, probably 5 or 6 times a day, and it's the Shofu EyeSpecial camera. We've all had photography in our offices. We've used Nikons, we've used Canons, we've used all sorts of Minoltas and gotten all sorts of fancy things. This is an all-in-one. It looks kind of strange because there's a camera inside this case. And I'm here with Mike from Shofu. How are you, Mike?
Excellent, doctor. Thank you.
So, talk about the case, for example. What is so special about the EyeSpecial case around this camera?
Well, one of the things that makes it wonderful is that because it's a sealed unit, it's ISO certified water resistant. And in addition to that, it can be wiped down with an antiseptic wipe between patients. And of course, this prevents cross-contamination.
And how do you do that with a Nikon? I mean, really, you can't put a plastic bag over it. So that's one of the nice features. Number 2, ergonomic, lightweight. I can move it around as I am right over here. Very easy to use. Autofocus. The flashes are preset. And if you turn around the camera to the back, which we'll show you in a close-up, there are all sorts of presets. So why don't we go over the presets, Mike, a little bit?
Okay, built into this camera are 8 different preset modes. Each one for a different type of picture you would take around to practice on a regular basis. So every one of them has value. There's a standard mode, which allows you to take a smile shot. There's also a surgery mode that lets you take the camera outside of the surgical field, but still have a highly magnified image with excellent flash. There's a mirror mode, and this is kind of neat because it allows you to flip the image either vertically or horizontally before you take the image out of the camera. There's a face mode, and this is just for the basic patient shot or a profile, something you might use for orthodontics or for a new patient.
Well, we use it in our software as a registration for the new patient. So the patient comes in and they come to the waiting room, it shows up on the screen so people know who they are.
Excellent. In addition to that, there's a low glare mode, and this is for shooting anterior cases. Because what we find a lot of time is when you're shooting an anterior case, there's a lot of reflected light off of the incisors, and this controls the flash intensity in such a way as it prevents that. In addition, there's a whitening mode, which is perfect for shooting those before and after shots, so the patients can see the true impact of the procedure that they just had. As well, it also comes with an extra lens called a telemacro lens that simply screws on the end, and it allows you to take super close-up images for showing treatment necessary or communicating with the lab.
Okay, now this is a drum roll for this last thing we're going to talk about.
Okay, and the final feature, which is really neat, and actually some doctors who use the product say this alone would be worth the price of the camera, is something called the isolate shade mode. And in this mode, what it does is it allows you to have shade tabs in front of the patient's teeth, and when you take the picture, not only does it give you the original image, but it also grays out all the soft tissue, and it allows you to have both of those images available for communication with the lab or the selection of a restorative shade.
And when we send these to the labs, a new lab, and they see this, they go, what in the world is that? All the tissue is gray, and all you see is the teeth in true color. And even if you're trying to get a color match, obviously, depending on the screen that they're using, it might be off a little bit. If you have an A2 shade tab, they know what A2 is, and they can see the relationship between that A2 shade tab and the patient's tooth. But it's much clearer in that shade mode.
But just as good for that purpose, it also has a way where you can document things right on the picture. So if you were inclined to make notes for the lab or circle potential treatment for the patients, there's a simple way to do that also.
And even though we want to project these on a screen somehow, there's a little SD card. You just open it up, take the SD card out, or if you wanted to even purchase your own Wi-Fi card, you can actually beam it out if you want to, something like that. The screen is big enough to bring over to the patient and say, I just took this picture, and then by just using your hands, you can explode the picture and say, here's the fracture I just found in your tooth. The resolution is fantastic too. I don't know the number of megapixels. I don't think it really matters. 12 megapixels. And we've had cases where we took a full arch case or a little implant, and there was something wrong where the tissue was growing around the implant. I can blow it up full screen and not losing anything.
Excellent.
There's some great things. We use it all day long. We use retractors for all the cases, and just one of the things that the camera doesn't do itself. Keep in mind that when you're showing these patients the pictures. Do a little cropping, get rid of the retractors, because otherwise they have this thing sticking out of their mouth. But you can zoom in and do it on the screen here. There's also a way to identify the patient, isn't there?
Well, there is a way to code a number for each patient, and this makes it even HIPAA compliant. And for people who use it a lot, like the doctor here, it runs on AA batteries.
Right.
And we always recommend people use rechargeables so they don't have to continually spend on battery replacement or these expensive battery packs like some of the charging lights force you to do.
It just unscrews here, you pop in the 4 AA's, and boom, you're back in business. Can't say enough about this camera. I mean, it's one of those, people say to me, when you're talking about technology and dentistry, what are the things you must have? I will leave the office with this in my hand. It's not leaving my hands. My favorite product, I have to say, my favorite product. Mike, what a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Doctor. My pleasure.
All right, thanks everybody.